Hello, my beautiful soul tribe. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new, my name is Joy Renee, and this is Joy Renee Uncensored, MiVidaLoca Podcast. And this is my life story. I will be discussing topics and scenarios that might be triggering, such as sexual assault and addiction, and prostitution. I encourage you to simply take what resonates and leave the rest. It's my intention to share my experiences, to help anybody. This is a survivor story. This is my testimony. This is episode 6, and the past few episodes I've gotten up to 2012, and I'm not quite sure where my guides are going to lead me, but I am asking my guides to lead me so that my audience hears exactly what you need to hear at any given time. I am divinely guided and protected in all ways, always. Now, if you do hear background noise, my kids are home for the summer, and I do have my dog here, so you might hear that. I guess I want to start out by going back to around 2006. And the reason I want to start there is because I want to talk about my diagnosis a little bit. Not that I have to stick up for myself, although I kind of am. And that's okay. But my voice needs to be heard. I need to speak my truth. And that's what I'm doing by sharing my story here on MiVidaLoca. It is to share my story because my mom never got an opportunity to share her story, and my ancestors sure did not have an opportunity to share their stories either. And so it is in me to want to share my truth and be my authentic self all the time. And I'm being drawn to share about my diagnosis. So we'll go ahead and just take a deep breath and see where spirit leads me here. So when I got diagnosed with borderline personality, it was at Behavior Management Systems in Rapid City, South Dakota. And I went there because I had gotten arrested for hitting my ex-husband. And back then, I thought I had an anger issue, right? I thought, oh, I have an anger issue. I'm going to have to, go back to anger management or whatever the case. But I found out by getting professionally diagnosed, and I kind of just went in with an open mind, like, okay, why am I responding this way to people? Like, what is going on here? So I went and, I talked to Lisa there, and I went there for many years, and I was under the care of Lisa for many years. And I answered their questionnaire and she also took the information that I was giving her about my past, my life, what I had been through, being promiscuous, being a prostitute. I discussed the things that I had done, mostly. I completely skipped over a lot of the things that have happened to me, because a lot of the things that happened to me I thought were my fault, and I'll get into that a little bit, because I feel like a lot of us carry that. It's not that I think it's my fault that it happened to me. I felt like I needed to punish myself, like punish myself to get into heaven or whatever the case. So I always was just I always thought that I was putting myself in bad situations, because I was a bad person, okay? I was coming from a place of, like I had shared in previous episodes, religious programming and conditioning that I grew up with, right? So I was completely as honest as I could at that time, because I was completely dissociated from all of my sexual assaults and molestations at the time, okay? So I didn't know until after my parents passed away that all of those sexual assaults and everything that happened, that actually happened to me. Like, in my mind, I put it in a compartment that it just didn't happen to me, it happened to someone else. And that was my way of checking out on it and making it acceptable, I guess. I don't know. But it was my way of coping with the information. The facts were that I had been sexually assaulted at a very young age. I don't remember how it happened, but I was activated because I always was like masturbating, and I was always doing those things as a young child. And I know as a mother, and I have other children that are not like that, because, and I'm grateful because my kids haven't been sexually assaulted like I was, because I was activated at a young age. I don't remember having hymen either, like hymen, or when you like lose your virginity, you bleed. I never had that. I never bled. And I always just dismissed it. But now thinking, as the older I get, like, what the fuck happened? You know what I mean? Like, who touched me? Like, who did that? And honestly, I don't really want to know. I have, I know enough so that I can heal that part of me. But I don't really want to know. I just get a vision of, like, the Mad TV character, cartoon dude. And I don't know how real that is, so obviously, because it was the Mad TV character dude. So anyways, I know I'm getting really detailed, and that's because I want to. I'm sorry if this is hard for you guys to hear. So I thought I was a bad person. What was actually happening was I had been abused and neglected, and those were my coping skills. So I was being punished, and I know a lot of us can relate to this. I was being punished for my coping skills and my reaction to the abuse I was receiving. Okay? I did not learn that when I was at Behavior Management Systems. I did not learn that until the last year, just this last year, which is 2023 to 2024. Before that, I literally thought I was a bad person. And then when I got diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, it gave me a reason for the behavior, but it didn't really give me a cause to why I had the borderline personality disorder, if that makes sense. I wasn't really with somebody at Behavior Management Systems that wanted to go deeper with me, if that makes sense. Like, I think I could have used like a psychotherapist or a real psychiatrist at that time to really dig into why I had the borderline, instead of just medicating it, because that's all they did was they discussed or excuse me, they discussed my diagnosis with me and my behaviors, but they never, went into why I actually had the borderline, or even to do the other therapy that we'll get into later, right? So I went in and I did the best I could with what I was given, okay? I was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. I was not diagnosed with a narcissistic personality disorder, and I'll tell you the difference. The difference is having empathy. Now, a narcissist, and I'm using the DSM model here, the DSM-5 model for diagnosing narcissistic personality disorder. You can look up the information online if you need to, okay? But that's what I'm using as the basis for discussing narcissistic personality disorder and borderline personality disorder, because I am experienced with the borderline personality disorder as well as narcissism. And the reason I'm experienced with narcissism is because I was raised by a narcissist, so I was taught extremely narcissistic, 11/11 on the clock. So I was not only, I had to deal with the abuse I was receiving, okay, and that is the behavior. Then I got my behavior punished because it was, I was acting out, I was an angry child, I had issues, whatever the case. So my parents basically gave me tough love, and I'm gonna tell you why tough love isn't always a good idea. Basically, tough love is saying, I have love for you only when you're acting correctly. That's programming. So you're telling me that I'm only lovable when I'm living up to your expectations. That sounds extremely narcissistic, doesn't it? Yes. Yes. And a lot of us are dealing with narcissistic tendencies. We're not dealing with narcissistic personality disorder, because you do need to have a diagnosis for that. Now, I am working with a doctor. She is a PhD, and she specializes with borderline personality disorder. And the name of the company is Affiliated Psychological Services, is where I'm going currently, okay? Now, the information that I've been learning from going to therapy the past year is the information that I'm going to be using to help you. As a narcissistic coach or an abuse coach, I can help people walk through the things that are holding you back because you're unable to accept that they happened to you, and that's where I come in, so that I can help you understand that it's okay that these things happened to you. You don't have to hold on to them. You don't have to be ashamed of them, because there's no reason to do that. It's an experience that we had, and it's something that we can let go of. And it is something that we can learn how to forgive without allowing that person or thing to come back in our lives, right? This is about accepting that it happened, allowing God to take care of it, and just we're going to accept ourselves for who we are and love ourselves just as much as possible so that we can heal, okay? So when I got arrested with my ex-husband, and it was like in 2006, it was before I married him, and I should have never married him, dude. That was like one of the biggest mistakes I made, was marrying my ex-husband, And it's like, I go to jail, I go in to get help. I find out that I have borderline personality disorder. So at least I have an answer to why I act the way I do, to an extent. Now, fast forwarding to, let's see where you guys want to take me here. What was frustrating for me was having to understand that what I was doing back at Behavior Management Systems was just medicating, putting a Band-Aid on it without actually, cleaning the wound, and getting out the infectious, festering dirt and all of that nastiness so that it can heal properly. We're just putting a Band-Aid on it. That's what medication is. It's just putting a Band-Aid on it. Now, I am not talking about people who have chemical imbalances. And of course, I'm never going to tell you not to go get diagnosed, because I agree that a diagnosis is very helpful, because in your self-knowledge, in learning about yourself, okay? It's part of learning about yourself. That doesn't mean you're a bad person because you have depression or anxiety or narcissism or borderline or whatever the case. Maybe you have avoidant, because there's also avoidant personality disorder. There's psychotic and there's sociopath, and all of these things are diagnoses from what? Because we were raised by narcissists. Exactly. Because we were raised by people who would not take accountability for their side of the street. They refused to take care of their problem. They had issues. Instead of taking care of their issues, they blame you for your reaction to them, right? This is how we're raised. And this is how most of Gen X is raised. We were raised on our own to fend for ourselves emotionally. We played outside most of the time. We came home. A lot of kids came home from school and didn't have parents there. They just had to come home and they had rules. Seriously. I wasn't one of them. My mom was always home. And believe me, my mom's emotions and needs came before my own. And unfortunately, I was taught how to put other people's needs, wants, opinions, everything before my own. Their happiness before me, and here I am a year and a half ago trying to figure out how to put myself first at the age of, I was 45, 46 at the time. I'm going to be 47, so I was 45 at the time. All right. And then here I am at 45 years old. How do I reprogram myself again? Because I had my religious awakening, and understanding that, oh my God, God is a lot bigger than I thought, and all of that. That was my huge awakening in 2020 when I started I believe that was my final Kundalini activation, where I received my first sets of downloads. And ever since then, I've just been skyrocketed into this learning capsule. I don't know what else to describe it, but I've been learning as much as I possibly can since April of 2020. And it has to do with things I've never learned about, like tarot, tapping into spirit, my higher self, what is it, like Kundalini, what is that, your chakra system, energy system, which I am now going to be teaching, which is amazing. And I do also energy work, so I also can clear your energy. I can help you learn how to clear your own energy, activate your chakras. I'm here to be a teacher, to teach you how to do these things. Basically, it's just so different from what I was doing before, and what sucks is the people around me just are not very accepting of the things that I would like to do now. It's so different, and they don't have any faith. They have zero tolerance for me trying to change, me trying to put myself first, and it's extremely narcissistic for other people to put their needs and wants ahead of you. Their feelings are not more important than yours, but they might just be as important, because that's how I look at it. My kids and I, we're all on the same level. Me and God and my kids are all on the same level. And I have to put myself 2 steps ahead of my kids, so that I can make sure my cup is always full and overflowing with love and joy and peace and kindness. Because if it's not, and I'm not putting those things in me, then my kids are getting the leftovers, which is crap and irritability and anger and snappiness. And I don't want that for my kids, right? I don't want that for anyone around me. So it's really important to make sure that I'm putting myself first, even if it's just a couple of steps ahead, so that I can make sure that my cup is full. My cup is full of love and joy and peace and serenity, and for my babies, because I want the best life for them no matter what. I want them to be happy, I want them to do more things than I could ever do in my life, and I'm trying to do those things by making those changes. But the people around me really just put themselves, and they've been putting themselves in front of me, and making me the villain. It's awful. The covert narcissism that I've had to learn and I'm actually dealing with is awful, because I didn't really want to I didn't really want to accept or even believe that I was dealing with narcissistic abuse. I didn't want to I really didn't. It's basically domestic violence. It's all psychological. It's in your head, you know. But I had to, like, slowly. I've been peeling off this onion, you know, of layers of just programming, layers of just things that aren't real, other people's illusions, their delusions. But I don't have to buy into other people's bullshit, and that was reminded me. You know, my friends, you know, that are extremely closest to me, that I care about, they remind me. You know, I got. Why are you reacting to people? They're just, they're just a mirror. They're a mirror, or I'm being the mirror. You know, and I'm being the mirror by reflecting back at you what you need to see in me at any given time. And we also have soul contracts with people, you know, and so a lot of the people that we've been dealing with have been karmic. These people have been negative impacts on your life and learning lessons from. Even if they are a soulmate, that doesn't mean they're forever, okay? We need to learn how to let go of the things that we are done learning from, okay? Even if it's karmic and it's extremely difficult. That's my puppy, if you can hear him in the background, sorry. So I've really just had to deal with so much realizations the past few weeks, you know. But if I can say anything so that you can see where narcissism is, okay? Narcissism is competition. Someone's competing with you. Someone's trying to force their opinion on you. Someone's judging you because you believe differently. That's extremely narcissistic behavior. Those people don't necessarily, they may not have all of the NPD points of diagnosis in the DSM-5 is what I'm trying to say. That's fine. We all have narcissistic traits. That's right, we all have narcissistic traits because we've been gaslit our entire lives. The collective consciousness is extremely narcissistic because a lot of the public and a lot of the people are narcissistic. And so a lot of these things are being brought to light because of our awakening. We're going through an awakening, 22:22 on the clock. We're all going through an awakening at the moment because we're increasing consciousness on this on the planet right now. And you know, Lori Ladd talks about it too. I'm not going to get into that in this episode, but yeah, so for the past year, I've really just been trying to heal and put myself first. And the people, when you do that, the people that are toxic and benefited from the old you are going to react to you. And a lot of times it's not positive. They're going to react to you. It's going to be extremely negative feeling, all right? But I want you to know that even if that is happening, it is, you're on the right path. This is your confirmation that you're making the right decision. This is your confirmation that you are making the right choices, okay? I'm going to go ahead and close this episode. Let me ask if there's anything else. Sorry for getting interrupted. I feel like huge red flags, you know. I touched on it a little bit, but if you have borderline or a different mental diagnosis, I don't like saying illness because it's not really an illness. It's just a gift. It's misunderstood. And there's definitely a reason that you have it, because you're sensitive. Or, you know, there's other reasons for you having the gifts that you have. There's definitely a choice that you can make to allow spirit to use it for the good. I feel like if you have borderline, all all right, and you're labeled as a bad person, etc. My borderline personality now is a bullshit detector. That's right. Anytime somebody is being toxic with me, it basically triggers me. And the more you deal with your triggers, the better you will be. So what I mean by that is accepting that your episode is not who you are. It's something that you are experiencing. And nobody, including yourself, should be holding on to the things that you say or do in the midst of an episode. And my doctor and I, we compare my BPD episodes as to a seizure. Now, a person with a seizure is incapacitated and unfortunately not coherent when they're having their episode. They're out cold, generally, and they lose consciousness. They don't remember it. Now, the BPD episode is our brain firing off just the same, maybe in different areas, but just the same firing off. We don't have control over that part. It's the same as having a seizure, except you're coherent, you're alert, you're moving around, you're walking around. There's a difference, but there's little control over what you say or do in the midst of an episode. So none of the things that you say or do should be held on to. In fact, you should be with someone who's able to hold space for you and allow you to have those feelings and emotions and still love you and still hold space for you and won't use it to judge you or use it against you. You know, just because you have borderline or you have something that is labeled as negative or is taboo, or you feel like it makes you different or less than, let me just say that it is just an experience. And my experience should not be compared to anyone else's experience. It's just an experience. And not only that, but nobody's sins are greater than anyone else's. So I don't know why anyone sits on a throne and looks at people like, oh, well, you know, she was a prostitute. Oh, well, she stuck needles in her arm. Oh, well, you know, she did videos or whatever the case, right? No sins are greater than anyone else's. And the sad part is you're judging yourself more than you could ever judge anyone else. You're judging yourself to the same standards that you're judging everyone else. And that's not very fair. That's not very fair. So maybe you have extremely high expectations on yourself and you have the same expectations on other people. Look, what other people do, what other people say, and what other people think is not your business and should not be judged or compared to. You know, let that part go. Yeah, the only person you should be comparing yourself to when you're healing is your past self. Truth. The only person you should be comparing yourself to is yourself. Being better than who you used to be. Because what other people say, do, think is not your business. And I feel like for myself and my borderline, like I've had these many realizations come to me through therapy and through talking it out and through being triggered and through experiencing life, right? I've learned a lot. And none of it's bad. None of it's bad. It's literally just an experience that we have. I'm here to share my experience with you so that hopefully I can help you. That's why I decided to be a coach. And I specialize in addiction and borderline, and I also specialize in narcissistic personality disorder because I've dealt with it and I'm healing from it. You know? That's the most important thing, is my self-healing. and learning more about myself. You know, if you're just tuning in to learning how to listen to your own intuition and, you know, raise your vibes and start your ascension process, you know, reach out. I'm here for you. I'm here to help you. That's what I do. You know, I don't know what else to call myself except a coach. I'm an intuitive coach. You know, a lot of times it just takes a consultation, an hour. Just spend an hour with me, you know, and talk to me and get an idea of, you know, hey, yeah, I do want changes. I want to make some changes, or maybe you just don't feel right. Things are changing and you can't quite put your finger on it, you know. And that's also why I'm here. I'm here to chat with you. You know, I'm tapped into my higher self. And I'm also tapped into everyone else's higher self. Because when you're tapped into your higher self, you're tapped into everyone else's higher self too. You know, because we're all connected. We're all one. And I think that's a beautiful place to end it today. Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. I'll be doing another episode soon. Email me if you need to. Reach out. I'm here for you.